The Healing Spring Show, healing families and communities by breaking the stigma of addiction and expanding the scope of recovery. Now here's your host, John Edmondson.
So when it comes up to any event or holiday, it can always be a very exciting time. We're looking forward to seeing our families, we're looking forward to seeing friends, taking a break, relaxing, maybe doing a cookout, or maybe having a large meal together. Another thing to keep in mind, though, is staying safe, making good choices, making good decisions, and not making any choice that may cause harm later on. Today we have an expert with us, Bobbi Brooks from Watch Your Back. She's going to talk a little bit about education and the things we need to keep in mind when driving, how to stay safe, and not make a choice that could affect us for the long run. Bobbi, thank you. So glad you're here today.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Sure, most definitely. So you've got this pretty interesting thing going on here. You have a mission that you're trying to educate the public to prevent a lot of harm from being caused. Tell us about that. What is your mission, your journey?
Sure. So we're with the Watch Your Back program through Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service, and we're funded through TxDOT. So we travel all over the state of Texas and talk to people about the dangers of impaired driving and alcohol use and misuse, as well as drugs.
Wow. So this is something, how long have you been doing this?
We're on our 8th year of funding through TxDOT.
8 years. Okay, so thank you to TxDOT for doing that. That's pretty huge. This is the kind of stuff people don't think about a lot, right? Is getting that education out there, making sure, not just dealing with the events after they happen, like we work in treatment, so getting people in after they get a DUI or DWI, but you're trying to actually prevent it from happening in the first place.
That's correct. We want people to have a plan ahead. We have not had a deathless day on Texas roads since November 7th, 2000.
Wow.
So it's a pretty dangerous place out there. And in Texas, we'd like to think we're the biggest and the best at everything that we do. Yeah. But actually, Texas leads the nation in DWI deaths and arrests.
Wow, that's heavy. That's something that we need to talk about.
And these are 100% preventable crashes. It's never an accident that somebody drives impaired. So we call it a crash.
Makes sense. So you're talking there's that, how many deaths again did you say?
Well, with people just driving impaired, there were over 97,000 last year in Texas.
In Texas alone?
So those were arrests, those were not deaths.
Gotcha.
Deaths, there were 940 in 2018. So that is a lot of Texans' lives that have been lost for a preventable crash.
A lot of lives have been lost, a lot of arrests that have happened. And it could have been prevented. How are you helping people prevent that?
Well, we want people to have a sober driver. We want them to plan ahead. When somebody starts drinking, their inhibitions go out the window, and they don't think about it. So if you have a sober driver planned ahead or a way to get home with a sober driver, that's what we're really asking people to do.
That makes a lot of sense. And the people you're targeting to talk to, are this high school students or professionals or a little bit of both?
Anybody that's on Texas roads. So we talk a lot about underage drinking prevention, so we don't want people to start drinking underage. They make poor choices, can lead to other things later in life. And so as adults, they think, well, I can have just one or just two, but people don't realize what one drink is. So it's not that 23.5-ounce beer, right. That's more than one drink. Or if you go out to a restaurant and you have a glass of wine is really 5 ounces. If they fill up that whole glass, they've really had 2 or 3 drinks, not knowing. Just because it comes in one container doesn't mean it's one drink. People are not familiar what a standard size drink is.
You just said something right there which I didn't even think about, which a lot of people listening, I hope they hear it. People just say, I just had one. But how big was that one?
Exactly.
What was in that one? So it's great education for people to even think about before they get on the road and when they're out there with their friends. Now, you're not just going through and saying, all right, let me tell you some stats on this. You're actually creating an experience for people. How are you doing that?
Well, a lot of times people are like, don't tell me, but show me, right. Especially with young people. They want modern technology. So one of the things that we use are the virtual reality goggles by the DWI Pod. Those have a beer box in them, and so it has levels of impairment from 1 to 10. And so it's like a night of drinking. So when you first start out, you might not be able to do things, fine motor skills, but as the night goes on and you'd have more drinks, they can see what that experience might actually be like.
They can actually feel it as they're going through it.
And these goggles, they only affect your vision. It's not all the other muscles that alcohol affect, so it's only just a part of it. So we're hoping to get that message through that something as simple as playing cornhole, beanbag toss, now becomes very difficult. So imagine getting behind the wheel of a car and how many lives you could put in danger.
I could see that. You say cornhole, beanbag toss. You're like, are you going in and having them do those games while they have the goggles on?
That's exactly it.
Really?
So we can do, simple activities that are really easy if you're not impaired by alcohol or drugs. But once you put on these goggles, you can see how that impairment is going to affect you.
So walk me through these. We have a couple here that are in front of us.
Okay.
This one is...
Those are the virtual reality goggles. So we use those with alcohol impairment as well as marijuana impairment. Because people don't realize if you drive high, you can get a DWI, whether that be from marijuana, prescription medication, over-the-counter medication, or any other illegal drug.
Okay, so let's take a look at this. So what do we do when we put one of these on?
Okay, so you're just going to go ahead and put those over your eyes.
Okay. I'm going to be interviewing impaired.
Okay.
All right.
So you really got to push your head forward to make it go on.
Oh, wow.
So as you tap the right-hand side, it'll increase your levels from 1 up to 10.
Wow.
Tap it just with your right finger.
Right here? Go.
It's going to be right here on the side.
I see it.
What level are you at?
Oh, wow. I can't even see really well here. This is pretty interesting. So you have them do this, and then you have them do an activity, or just try to look around the room?
Sure. We also have a DWI prevention simulator, which is actually a video game. And one of the hardest tasks that they have are getting into the seat of that simulator.
That's just sitting down.
Because most people don't drink in their vehicle. They leave a bar, party, or restaurant, and then they try and get into a vehicle.
Yeah, so when they're going in, they're doing the simulator, are they actually driving? Like it's actual virtual reality sort of a deal?
It is a video game, and so you actually have pedals, a gas and a brake, you have a steering wheel, and you're playing a video game. So the biggest thing is once they crash, your first-time DWI will cost you about $17,000 in real life. But with this game, we have a reset button. When they get up out of that seat, we push that reset button. In life, if you hit, kill, or injure somebody, you don't get that reset button.
Yeah. This sounds like such a powerful mission for you. I can feel your passion in the room, and I think that's huge. And I'm really grateful for this mission that you're getting out. That's why I wanted to have you on the show. We talk about treatment, we talk about solutions, we talk about other things here, but we also need to talk about the awareness. Maybe we can prevent some of these decisions from being made and then things happening. What got you into this? Was there anything that really moved you or drew you towards this field? It's very unique.
Well, while I was in college in Nebraska, I was a volunteer firefighter and an EMT. And so I saw what the dangers were on the road. So I think that's where the drive originally came from. Also, I have 3 teenagers. I know that Texas roads are very deadly. So I want other people to be aware because it's my kids that are driving on the road. It's my family. It's all my friends. It's my community. I want to keep that safe.
Yeah, it's the people that you care about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's important. So you got some kids. Let's give them some shout-outs. Who do we have?
Sure. So Tegan is a junior at the University of Nebraska. And then Drew is a freshman at Blinn College in Bryan. And Molly is a senior at College Station High School.
All right. Very nice. You got to be very proud of them.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's wonderful. And so you care about your kids, obviously, and you care about everybody. So I bet you talk to them, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's it like talking to teenagers about this stuff?
Yeah, it is very difficult. So you want to bring up these subjects, have that conversation. One thing I did do with my kids was I set up a secret password that if they were to make a poor choice, they could call me, text me anytime, day or night, and I would go pick them up. No questions asked that night. So I'd much rather get a call from them than I would from a hospital.
Police or a hospital.
Or morgue, something like that. So yes. And I'll tell you that when my son was 15 years old, he called me at 12:30 in the morning, and all I heard was, "Come get me." Wow. And so, of course, as a parent, that scares you. Yeah. So I said, okay, I'll be right there. Went and knocked on that door. And the parents opened up the door, and I said, we have a family emergency. I need for Drew to come home right now. He kind of looked surprised.
Played
gathered
the part
his
really
things.
well.
Yes.
Very smart, Drew. Yeah.
Yep. And so we went home that night. Absolutely no questions asked. The next day I said, hey, what was going on last night? He said, my gut just told me something wasn't right. So I talk to students about that all the time. Set up a plan with your parents. Go with your gut feeling. If it doesn't feel right, get yourself out of that situation. If you're not able to do that, your parents will take the heat for that anytime.
Great advice to give to a lot of parents and a lot of kids. So any kind of password or just call, no questions asked.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yes. So another way for parents to talk to their children is when you're riding in the car. You have a captive audience.
They're stuck.
But you don't have to look each other eye to eye. So they can have a conversation. So tell me about what's happening at school. Tell me what's going on. Ask open-ended questions. Family dinner is a great time at our house. We have great conversations, lots of things, but some people say we don't have that opportunity. So when you're riding in the car, that's a great place to do that too. And high school kids are more likely to open up to their parents if parents are asking questions and if they know the lingo. We know one of the biggest trends out there right now is vaping. Vaping is a big deal, using that Juul. We call those a drug delivery device. It's not just nicotine that people are putting in those vape pens. It's other drugs as well. And kids just want to be seen with that. They just want to fit in.
Like to be cool and be accepted and acknowledged.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and what message do you have for these kids when they're looking into that?
Well, we really don't know what the long-term effects are going to be of vaping. We don't know that right now. We do know that it's causing a lot of health problems. And it seems to be traced back to the vitamin E acetate and THC that people are putting in vape pens. But that's not regulated. So we don't know where people are getting these from. Are those cartridges coming from China and they're filled with other substance? You never know. What if somebody laces that with fentanyl and they have an overdose? We just don't know where all these are coming from. So you don't know where they're from, what's in them. You don't know how it's going to affect your body.
And this is the message you give to the kids when you go into schools and you talk to them.
Absolutely. So it's anything from illegal drugs to prescription drugs to alcohol actually is a drug, and people just don't realize that.
Yeah, anyone that's like the argument right now of whether or not to legalize marijuana. And then I asked a friend of mine who's in recovery, and I said, what do you think about that? He says, well, alcohol, that didn't go well for me. So I don't know why you think marijuana would either.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we talk a lot about marijuana and how impairing that can be. So I'm going to give you these marijuana goggles and let you try these. So This is this company's interpretation of how marijuana may affect you. Marijuana does not make you see green. It does not make you colorblind, but it does affect your executive decision-making skills. And when do you need those skills?
When you're driving, when you're doing anything, really.
All the time, right?
When you're walking.
Okay, so Don, tell me what color this is.
I can't even see it. I mean, blue.
Blue, okay. Let's try another one. How about this one?
Yellow.
Okay.
Am I getting close?
How about this one?
Green.
Okay, so go ahead and take those off.
What did I do?
So the first one was orange, the second one was blue, and the third one was red.
I thought I was crushing this. I was like, she's acting awkward because I'm actually getting it right.
Right.
But not even close.
Not even close. So imagine your executive decision-making skills. Are you going to be able to see the brake lights in the car in front of you?
Oh, good point.
What about the stoplight? Or what about, there's a police officer behind you, but you're very paranoid because you know you're high. And if you stop in the middle of the road, it's obstruction of highway. If you don't stop, it's evading arrest. So remember, if you drive high, you can get a DWI.
That makes people don't even think about that. They think about alcohol. But if you're saying if you're doing marijuana, you can also get a DWI for that.
That's correct. The legal definition of a DWI is the loss of normal physical or mental faculties due to the introduction of alcohol or drugs.
Or drugs.
So we also talk to older adults about that too. So my grandmother recently had surgery, and they gave her pain medicine. So she used it for a day or two, and then she put the rest away because she one day may need that. Now, what if she's taking some heart medicine and she mixes it with that pain medicine? How do we know that those really interact well to each other? So we talk about proper medicine disposal. because you don't want to keep those. But think, my grandmother's on a fixed income, so she doesn't want to have to pay that copay again, so she may keep some medicine around in case she would need that.
Yeah, and then I'll feel good today, I'll take it, it made sense before.
Well, and it's just with the opioid crisis right now, too. So the pain medicine that she does have is an opioid. So if she takes that and she's still having pain and she's forgotten she's taken that medicine, she could overdose. So it's not just people that are addicted or people living on the streets. It can be anybody that might have an opioid overdose.
I'm so glad you're with us right now, because you're saying things that most people don't ever think about. I never would have thought of that as far as, you know, you're taking this medication, how could it affect my driving? I mean, it kind of makes sense. There's a warning there. But sometimes when we get caught up in our day, it doesn't click as much. Whereas everyone focuses on the alcohol and the drugs, which is important too.
Absolutely.
But you're saying really be aware of everything you have in the cabinet. So when we started the show about making good choices and being aware so we can be safe to enjoy any event or life, you're saying those choices aren't just whether or not to get into a car. You're saying that this medication versus that, really follow on the doctor's recommendations.
Absolutely. And think about your pill medicine bottles. It has that tiny little script on it.
Warning, yeah, I can't read it sometimes. Yeah.
And it says, do not operate heavy machinery. People think of heavy machinery as being a forklift or a dump truck.
Right.
But really, heavy machinery is your vehicle.
Yeah, so most people don't even think about it.
Right.
Yeah, and they get in the car, then they get impaired, maybe they get hurt.
Exactly.
I'm looking over here. I see something else, and you said you're glad I don't know what this is. So I'm hoping that's a good thing. What do we have over here?
Okay, so in the state of Texas, if you are arrested for a DWI, you're going to be required to have an ignition interlock installed in your car. What this is to help preventing drinking and driving. So when somebody goes to start their car, they must blow and hum into this in order to make sure that they are sober.
And hum?
It is. You do need to hum so that they know that it is a human being and it's not forced canned air, because people have tried to get around it by using forced air to blow into this so that they could start their vehicle. So, and then it has rolling retests about every 15 minutes. So if you're driving from here to Houston, you're going to have to stop about every 15 minutes and do a test on it. That's to prevent people from stopping at a local gas station, picking up a Four Loko, drinking that, and then driving.
So it's a pretty smart tool.
Absolutely.
It helps it. So people who are getting in the car, and some of this, it's obviously adults too. My brain goes to teenagers too, because I used to be a high school teacher, so I want to reemphasize that, is the choices we're making are going to affect us in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
And one of them is, it's not just whether or not you get in a car accident, which is huge, or legal, but you can't even drive for 15 minutes without having to stop and blow into this device.
Right. Right, and they cost about $250 to have it installed.
Oh, you have to pay for it too?
Yes,
okay.
And about $75 a month. So then the probation officer is going to get a read from who is blowing into it, and people think, well, I'll just have my kids do it for me. They now have cameras attached to the windshield, so they're going to be able to see who is actually blowing into the system.
Wow.
So there's no way getting around it.
That'd be a hard one to outsmart.
Right,
yeah.
Yes. And then some people say, I don't have a car. So they may have a SCRAM. This is a
SCRAM?
A continuing alcohol monitoring device that they wear around their ankles, and it's going to continuously monitor to see if you have alcohol in your system.
How do they do that?
It's transdermal. So people think, oh, I'll just put some saran wrap around it. It's going to give a reading that it's been tampered with. Sometimes they have a GPS system on them as well. So if people make bad decisions, there's going to be consequences that come along with it.
And ones that they're not going to be able to avoid.
Correct.
Have you ever had a lot of people, they have like an event or an experience in their life. You talked some about being an EMT, being a firefighter. You saw it a lot. Was there anything that was personal to you that kind of moved this mission or kind of brings it more to life for other people?
Well, I was a stay-at-home mom with my 3 kids for 8 years. And during that time, I took care of a neighbor, a little girl that she stayed with us. Her mom was a single parent, and she was a nurse. And one day I got a call from her, my mom's dead. And we went down to the house, 5 doors down from us, and we found her with a needle in her arm. And she was unconscious, and we did CPR and saved her. So she then went off to drug rehab, and this little girl stayed with our family for 14 months. But during that 14 months, the mom would call and have conversations with her, but it was so devastating to this young girl that I'd stay up for nights and nights and nights at a time trying to comfort her. So here we were, this intact family, and we brought another child into our home to try and help her feel, quote, normal. But I saw those effects, and I don't want any child to ever have to go through the things that she went through. And so I think that's why it's part of my mission, is to try and educate people so that they can make better choices.
And you're doing a great job of that. How did this come about then? How did you talked about Texas.gov. Did they help you with this program? How did you create all of this?
So originally, I'm also a certified car seat technician, so I believe in safety. Always had my kids' car seats checked, make sure they were buckled in correctly. And then because Texas has such a problem with drinking and driving, NHTSA, the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, set aside some money to do some education to try and make a difference in the state of Texas. So we came up with the Watch Your Back program, and we spell it UR like you might text, and then BAC really stands for blood alcohol concentration. So that's what we want, is friends looking out for friends. So about 8 years we wrote a grant. We've been funded ever since. Just since January of this year, we've conducted 440 programs and educated over 50,000 people.
440 programs, over 50,000 people. Is that just in this area or in Austin, or?
It's all the state of Texas.
Whoa.
So we're a statewide program. So we've been as far as McAllen, Laredo, El Paso, Amarillo, Tyler, Beaumont, Corpus Christi. So our program is totally free. There are no charges for people to have us come out, and all the costs are covered through TxDOT.
And how does somebody actually connect or find you?
So we do have a website. It's watchyourback.tamu.edu. We are with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service, so we're with the Texas A&M system. And so they can go to our website and find us. We're also on social media. So you can find us at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at Watch Your Back.
Watch Your Back. So people can, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they can get on there. And is that important for them to check that out, to take a look at that?
Absolutely. So part of this grant is some earned media income, so social media plays a huge part in us getting this message out to the public. So like us, tag us, mention us. Share, absolutely.
Yeah, and so that's an important one. It's something we always say at the end of the show, and we'll talk about that in a minute. If you like it, share it out. Is there a message you want to give to the people that are watching?
We just want people to make good choices, make good decisions. Talk to your friends, your family. Just always have a plan in place. If there's going to be alcohol, make a plan before you go out. Plan ahead. Plan ahead so you don't have to suffer the consequences later. There are too many choices out there with Uber, Lyft, public transportation, not to make those good decisions. That first-time DWI will cost you about $17,000, and there's much better choices that are out there. Now, we do have people in rural communities, so sometimes they have family or friends that will be the designated driver. And when we talk about the designated driver, we're talking about the sober driver, the one that's had 0 to drink. Yeah, not just one, or not one earlier in the day, but none at all. Correct. That's correct. Thank you. Well, it's been really exciting to have you on the show today, looking at all these different items, really helping people make these smart choices, become aware of so much. Actually, there's more to this than I expected. I thought you were just going to say, don't drink and drive and do that, which is a great message to have. But you shared so much talking about how you can be impaired through marijuana. It's the same thing as alcohol, being smart about what you have in your medicine cabinet, watching out for the vaping. And really, it's personal to you because you care about your neighbor, the one that you took care of, and you actually saw her be stressed out at night. Yes. Yeah, this is a great mission that you have. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, and thank you for being on the show. This is exciting. So if this was helpful to you, if you know of anyone who would like to learn more about Watch Your Back, or if you just want to support the cause, like, click, share on all those different forms of media. It can not just help you, your family, but also could help someone out there you haven't even met. And we'll see you next time.